I'll just sit here and try not to do anything too goofy.
Yeah, make faces. Eugenics is the study and practice of genetic improvement of a species or population. It has been practiced throughout human history, through the domestication of plants and animals. But eugenics has a slightly different connotation from domestication, in that the term eugenics is used to mean human eugenics, or the genetic improvement of the human species. Eugenics is often classified as negative when reproduction is discouraged for certain groups, or positive when reproduction is encouraged. Recently, though, the possibility for direct control of genomes has opened a new avenue that might be dubbed neutral, since individuals who want to reproduce will have the choice of passing on only genes they wish to pass on. None of these paths are inherently good or evil. Their moral status depends entirely on the specific methods used. For example, negative eugenics, in the form of genocide or forced sterilization, are obviously evil. Well, maybe not obviously, considering how many Nazis there were, and considering the last forced sterilization in the state of California was as recent as 2013. But on the other hand, since someone with a genetic disorder such as autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease might want to adopt rather than reproduce. So long as this choice is made freely, I can't find fault with this effort. For positive eugenics, such methods as giving monetary assistance for raising children doesn't seem like such a bad idea, so long as it's balanced against people having children just so that they can get the monetary assistance and then thus creating unwanted children. As long as we balance against that, it's probably not a bad thing. There's also, I mean, you can chip in if you like.
No,
I'm just
complimenting what you're saying.
Yeah.
Continue.
Alternately, we might view monarchical inbreeding as positive eugenics gone awry, because it essentially is incentivized incest. And for those of you who don't know why incest is bad, it's because incestuous lineages are more prone to genetic diseases. If you have heart disease and your cousin has heart disease and you become kissing cousins, then your children will be very likely to have heart disease rather than if just one parent had that.
Another good example is what has happened with dog breeds.
Exactly.
And our selective breeding of dogs.
There are certain breeds that will have, say, weak hips or weak knees.
German Shepherds are a great example. Purebred German Shepherds have been incredibly inbred. They are very smart dogs, but they get health problems very quickly in their lives.
And pugs.
Ugh.
I mean, they're not necessarily diseased, but they're just ugly. No, I'm kidding. Actually, pugs do tend to have lung diseases that, for some reason.
They don't have very efficient respiratory systems.
Yeah. And, you wouldn't either if your nose was like this, all smashed to your freaking face. But lastly, we have classified neutral eugenics, which, it's our nomenclature. I don't know of anyone else who's been using it. But it raises many moral questions. The same techniques that would allow for removal of diseases in a germline would also be used to create designer babies, which, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is part of the reason why we're doing this whole sneer thing. We have to discuss that. We have to figure out what the moral and ethical implications are. For the future, is it ethical to impose our will upon somebody's genetics without good reason, without medical necessity? How would also cloning affect us if we're, say, using surrogates? People who normally wouldn't be able to reproduce can reproduce if they have egg cells or sperm cells donated and put together, and they can have a surrogate clone, or say, it doesn't need to be egg cells or sperm cells. It could be general stem cells for cloning. But how will that affect our society, since our society is based primarily around the reproduction system, how we get on as a species? I had a few other examples, but I didn't write them down because I was lazy. But there was a recent example of a woman who's running a biotech company, and she did a gene therapy where she increased the length of her telomeres, which are the ends of your DNA, which, as they shorten over time, your DNA becomes more prone to not fixing itself properly.
You can think of them as like the little plastic ends on the ends of shoelaces.
Aglets.
Thank you. I've been trying to think of that word for a while now and have not been able to.
Yes. Well, Tony loved that word, and I also learned it in the same way Tony did. The only good show on Disney, Phineas and Ferb.
I have a story about that. We'll cut this, but
okay.
I have a story later. Remind me.
Well, we'll not talk about it on camera then.
Yes.
And, you know, for Sneer, we're here to discuss these questions, you know, shoot the shits, have fun, and hopefully inform you. So stay tuned.